In this group of videos, I'm going to go through the basic steps in processing a single subject's data, going from the initial EEG to an averaged ERP, and then doing a few processes on the averaged ERP. This is basically a quick version of the online ERPLAB tutorial, which you can look at on the internet. I encourage you to follow along in the tutorial, which may answer any questions you may have along the way. As you can see, I have Matlab open already. My first step will be to launch EEGLAB just by typing EEGLAB in the command window. Now I'm going to set the current folder of Matlab to the place that contains the data for the tutorial. That's test data S1, which you should have downloaded from the erpinfo.org website. I have it in my memory, but you can also access the same thing by clicking the little dots there to browse for it, and then you can just browse through your file system. This current folder determines where Matlab will look first when you are looking for a file or if you're saving a file. So when you save a file, if you don't specify a folder for it, it will automatically get set in this current folder. And that's very convenient. So if you move from one subject to another and you have each subject's data in a separate folder, whatever you have as the current folder will contain the data for that subject, and you'll automatically read from that and write to that folder. So that's a good thing. Our first step is going to be to load a data set. So we go to EEGLab's file menu, we say load existing data set, and then you're going to select the file named s1_eeg.set and go ahead and open that. And we can see now that it's loaded because we've got s1_eeg in this window, and if we go to the data sets menu, we can see that it's loaded there. The first thing you'll usually want to do when you're new at this is make sure you've got something reasonable loaded up. So we're going to look at the data by going to Plot, Channel Data Scroll, and that brings up this window here that allows you to view the EEG. Now, in this experiment, there's some a break here that we're looking at. So the subject is just blinking, and if we scroll another 5 seconds and another 5 seconds, we can start to see event codes, these vertical lines corresponding where the stimuli are. And these numbers here are the actual codes. And you can see that the blinking now stops, although if you scroll a little farther, you can see that there is another blink. Okay, so it's good to just verify that you have sensible looking EEG. It's not necessary to do that, but oftentimes it's a good idea. Our next step is going to be to add channel location information. So the data file that we have has electrode labels, FZ, PZ, etc., but it doesn't contain any information about the three-dimensional positions of those electrodes. Your file might, but if it doesn't, you'll need to add that information if you want to plot scalp maps. So we do that by going to Edit, and select channel locations. And EEGLab has a set of files that specify standard locations for standard electrode sites. So I just select the standard file, just go with the default, and then it allows you to see the locations in different coordinate systems and modify them if you want to, but we're just going to use the default parameters and just say OK. So we now have that information, and the next thing that I want to do is change the name of the data set, because I'm going to save this as a new file, and we don't want to be confused about the old file and new file. We want them to have different names, different file names, and also different data set names so that they show up differently in the data sets menu. So I'm going to go to Edit, Dataset Info, and change it from S1_EEG to S1_CHAN, and click OK. And now if we look in the datasets menu, you can see that it's labeled S1_CHAN. Now we're going to save this dataset as, save current dataset as, and we're going to call it S1_CHAN. And it will automatically add an appropriate file name extension. And I already have that file there, you might as well, and so I'm just going to say yes, I want to overwrite it. Now, an important thing to keep in mind is that there's a data set name and there's a file name, and they're not necessarily the same. The data set name is the name that appears in the data sets menu, but you don't always have a data set stored in a file, and it is possible for them to have different names. In almost all cases, though, you'll want the data set name and the file name to be the same, because otherwise you're going to get confused.